It's 7 o'clock, so I'd like to welcome everybody to the Holt Public Schools Board of Education meeting, Monday, November 9th, 2020. And at this time, I'd like to call to order that noting that we do have a quorum with all of the board members present. And Dr. Hornak, if you'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'll be happy to. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board, the mission of Holt Public Schools is to innovate, educate, and inspire, empowering all students to make a positive impact in their communities. Need to adjust my camera. The vision of Holt Public Schools is to empower our learning community to make a positive impact on the world.
All right, well, Dr. Hornak, I'll call on you once again to administer the oath of office to our new board member, Ms. Jessie Jones.
Okay, Trustee Jones, I believe you were emailed your oath, and would you please read that? Normally we would be standing together in the boardroom, but in a virtual world, let's do it together from a distance.
Sounds good. Shall I read it?
You can. Yes, please.
Okay. I, Jessie Jones, solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the great state of Michigan, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office as member of the Board of Education of Holt Public Schools according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's official, President Perry. It's official. Oh, and oh, by the way, for the public, this was the ceremonial swearing in. We took care of the official swearing in several weeks ago. So.
Well, welcome, Ms. Jones. And as you know, Dr. Hornak, this gets us back to full strength at 7.
I'm tickled to be back at full team.
All right, the other person I'd like to also point out is Paige Tompkins, and I think this is maybe your first time with us officially, but Paige is our student representative from the student body, so welcome. Board members, the next item agenda is changes to the agenda, and we do have just a couple of them. The first one is 6.0.1. which is a little special surprise that Christine is going to entertain us with. And the other is to move 7.3 to 6.02, and that would be the HEA, the Holt Education Association letter of support up to section 6.
Could I add a quick item, Mr. Perry?
Yeah.
I did attend the MASB General Assembly meeting, and I could do a little 2-minute presentation on that as a, let's say, item, where am I on the schedule? Wherever I am, 5.3.1 or something like that.
Yep, we'll throw it in there with the ISOA report.
Okay.
With that, before we get to public comments, I would like to observe with the board and the public a moment of silence with the passing of Mr. Mike Smith. If you would, please hold Mike's family, himself, in your prayers in the weeks ahead. Then I'll move to public comment, item number 3. For anyone who would like to address the board, this is the time that you may do so. Please remember that this is not a dialogue between yourself and the board, although we may contact you later for some follow-up. There is a 5-minute time speaker limitation. We ask that you be courteous. The other thing that we ask is that you not use employees' names and that you do not use student names. And if you would, please state your name for the record. And people have signed up in advance, so I'll turn to you, Ms. Bureau. I think you have those names.
Yes, Brandy Jonker Burke.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
We can.
Perfect. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about the virtual learning, of course, which is hot topic. I've spoke before virtual learning went into effect before the school year started in August, and I just want to let you know that our experience has been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I can only speak for myself, for my family, for my child. I know lots of people are struggling, and I just want to let the board know that it really depends on your student. I happen to have a child who is on a full IEP, who has learning disabilities, but this has made him shine. This is his forum. This has converted everything that I was begging for him. Now, I know that does not apply to everyone, but for him, a child who was struggling, was failing, is a 4.0 student currently. 4.0. He is at Wilson. He's getting a 4.0 at Wilson as well. This has brought everything online for him. This has taken the reading component out. Everything is audio capable for him now, like we've been begging for. His tests, he doesn't have to feel ashamed that he has to go to another room to have his tests read to him, because it's just right there in front of him. He got 100% on his science exam. It was phenomenal. There was no anxiety. There was no pressure from him to, how am I going to spell these words? How am I, any of that. It was just type away and here I go. So I know that a lot of families are struggling with this, but on the flip side, what this has done for the students who were always struggling and now they're shining is phenomenal. So I hope that we can keep the things that we have put into place very quickly. All of the Chromebooks and everything is on Google Classroom, and everything is now readable to these kids who struggle. I hope when we transition back into in-person, whenever that may be, we can continue to use the technology that we have put into place. The teachers, while some of them I'm sure do not like it, this is the step that we needed to take as a district by far. And it's unfortunate that the situation that we're in, because it's not good mentally for people. I totally understand that. But the step that it just pushed us in to get to the technology side for all of the struggling reading learners in our community was tremendous. And I can't mention the teachers' names, but the teachers that he has have just been phenomenal, just phenomenal. So I have nothing but good things to say about the online learning.
Okay, thank you very much.
The only other person that pre-signed up was Brandon Kern. I believe he wants to speak on the same topic. He can do it now, or Brandon, if you want to wait until later for our second public comment regarding this, it's up to you.
Can I wait until 6.1.1.1, please?
You sure can.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mark.
Okay. If there's any other public that would like to speak at this time, if you could raise your hand.
It looks like we have one hand, two hands up.
Okay.
Um,
Miss Sally Hawk Harrison.
I don't know. Let me see. Yes, Sally Hawk Harrison.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes,
We
we
hear you.
do.
All right. This is very different to be back on Zoom after last month when we were in the big auditorium. Congratulations to the reelection of Amy, Mark, and Jennifer, and welcome to Jessica, our new little gal, Jessie. I guess you want to be Jessie Jones. Welcome. That's wonderful. I am like Dr. Hornak. I want a full board. I want all the opinions. I want all of you to be asking all the questions that all of us out in the public are thinking, well, why don't they ask that? Or why did they do it that way? Or that kind of thing. So keep doing what you're doing. I am loving it. We have had, just personal note, we have had COVID at our house. I tested positive 2 weeks ago, and Charlie just came home from the hospital today. So we are on the mend, and we are masking, and we are this and we are that. So it's out there. The big bad bug is out there. The spreadsheet for the school dates that has been teeny tiny print. I don't know, Dr. Hornak, you have my email, or maybe Jessica could do it for you. Christine, Lopez could do it for you. Not that I'm giving Jessica Cotter one more job. I would love to have a copy of that that I could print here, that I could see all the dates of what year the school was built and that kind of thing. I know that some of our schools are pretty darn old, and we've got to be doing something for them. I'm really thrilled. I've been listening for all these bond things and trying to educate myself, so when people ask me, that I am well educated about it. So keep having the meetings. I'm loving it. I couldn't make it work the other night when you were doing all the comments on that, and that I love the fact that Dr. Hornak, that your name came up, because you are truly a gem for us, and you are a wonderful man, and I enjoy having you as a friend. And I am so glad you're here with us at Holt. So I'm a cheerleader. I'm doing well, and I am loving seeing the board in action. So keep it going. Thumbs up.
All right. Thank you, Sally. Great to hear you're in good health.
And Melissa has her hand up.
Hi. So my name's Melissa. I have a son who is over at Hope Middle School, and he has an IEP. And I know the first commenter was going on about raving about the online. Unfortunately, that is exact opposite for my son. He cannot engage being online. He sits there and stares out the window. He just doesn't engage at all, because there's nobody there to, he doesn't have a para there to help him. I try, but I'm working from home, so I can only do so much. So I really think he's losing a lot by not being able to engage and interact, especially in his gen ed class, like science and social studies. Normally they'd be doing their, little projects and things that he could be a part of, which he can't now. He does go to learning labs for 45 minutes twice a week. But again, I just don't feel it's enough. I really hope that they can get the kids back in school, you know, masks, whatever, all of the provisions that you guys have said previously in meetings about how, you know, you're going to prepare for that. And I really hope that, you know, comes to fruition. So that's what I've got to say about it.
All right, thank you. And anyone else from the public?
Alan Ingram.
Hi, good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to address the board. And our family here is new to Holt this year. We moved from the South Bend area kind of mid-pandemic. So this is a new experience for us here in Holt. But we had extensive e-learning in our previous district prior to coming here to Holt. I will say, just for our family, we have 4 children, 2 of whom are school age and here in the district. And to be very frank, I would echo the sentiments of the last lady who spoke, that it has been a very challenging transition for us here. The e-learning, you know, it has largely been dependent on the teacher with our 2 girls that we have, in terms of how things are going. Some are doing very well. Some are kind of navigating the challenges, certainly. And as we've gone into week, whatever this is now of e-learning, 10, 11, wherever, we have started to see here in our house the similar type of disengagement with our children, where there are opportunities now where it's very hard to keep them focused, and they're having a hard time staying engaged throughout the course of the day. You know, even our 3rd grader who's very, I guess, very able to generally stay focused on things and takes a lot of pride in her education. You know, she finds herself getting distracted very easily and getting bored watching the YouTube videos that are posted on her slides and things like that. So, you know, certainly, while we certainly understand the seriousness of this decision and the seriousness and the risk associated with it, we do feel that in terms of the quality of education that our daughters will receive, that some form of a return to in-person education, or at least an option of that, will serve them significantly better here in the future. You know, again, I'm not saying that's got to be a 5-day cut, rip the Band-Aid, start from scratch, or go back to how it was, but having some sort of structured situation in a classroom with a teacher who is dedicated in teaching just one subject, instead of my wife, who's a stay-at-home mom, who's here trying to teach kindergarten and 3rd grade at the same time, and trying to troubleshoot technology and things like that, I certainly think merits some consideration. To be very frank, I listened to I listened to one of your meetings I think it's probably 2 meetings ago, and there was a lot of good discussion, I thought, about the mental health of the teachers and the staff and the faculty, and there is no doubt this is a huge transition for them. And their mental health certainly is important and needs to be thought about. But I am concerned as well about the mental health of the families and the mental health of the children, the ones who are away from their friends, and the ones who are, quite frankly, a little bit selfish here, the ones who haven't been able to make any friends because we're in a new situation. You know, and I think the ability of them to be able to get out and learn from a teacher and build those social relationships, I think it is possible to do socially distanced in a certain way, as reflected by other districts throughout the state. And I think I would definitely appreciate the board's consideration of all of those matters and all of those thoughts and opinions as you make this decision for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
No, I see no more hands up.
Okay. Then I will close public comment, and we'll move to item 4, the consent agenda. And again, we'll approve all these together. But first, Dr. Hornak with the gifts, do you have anything to note there?
I do. I think it's relevant to point out that the South Lansing Rotary continues to support us. It was just 2 to 3 board meetings ago that they had donated a significant sum of money for our mobile food distribution. And they have returned with another donation. And in fact, they have purchased a high-speed auto scan thermometer valued at approximately $1,800. It is sitting in my office. We're still working some of the technology glitches out of it. One day I came in normal and the next day I was 856 degrees. So I know I'm pretty comfortable in saying that that's probably outside of how it's supposed to work. The other is we have a real long-standing relationship with Kroger. And Kroger will restock a certain portion of their store based on the time of year. And then when it's time to turn that area over, often they call Holt Public, and they have donated recently school supplies of approximately $500. We'll be distributing those out to our schools in the next 2 weeks to allow for our schools then to share those supplies accordingly with their students. So it's wonderful. So we've got 2 nice donations that I'd like to the board to consider accepting.
All right, board members, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented to us.
Second.
We have a first and a second, and because we're on Zoom, Ms. Bureau, if you could do a roll call.
I'm sorry. I have just one thing. I wasn't sure if between the vote and the motion is when we bring that up, or if I should have said it before the motion. When I look at page 2 of the regular meeting minutes, under reports, it says it was moved. The second, it was moved by trustee Holgren and supported by trustee, but it doesn't say. Do you see where I'm saying? So I don't know who that individual is. But to me, that's an important one that I think we need to have that corrected.
That special meeting. Was that the special meeting or the regular meeting?
Regular meeting, page 2.
And I know that trustee Bureau and we both keep handwritten notes, so I will get with her tomorrow to make sure that we identify who seconded the motion.
Thank you.
Okay, and I had 2 earlier for Mrs. Lopez. One was October 19th, regular meeting, bottom of the first page, second to last paragraph. It should have said comment or statement instead of appointment. And then on page 3 for the same meeting, the first paragraph should have been serve as board delegate instead of MASB board. So both those corrections were also already noted.
So with that correction, Bureau, if you could do a roll call.
Roble,
Yes.
Dalton,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Helgren,
Yes.
Bureau, yes, Perry,
Yes.
and Leonard.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. We'll move to reports and 5.1, the 2021 bond update. I think this is you, Dr. Hawk, or
That works.
Dr.
Yep.
Hornak.
Yep. So I would just like to recap what happened in the committee of the whole for the public. The bond partners shared a summary of what has occurred between the October 19th meeting up and through last Wednesday, but actually today. And to that end, that particular PowerPoint has been added to the SharePoint, as well as the demographer's prediction regarding our student enrollment over the next 5 years. Board, I would encourage you to select at this point a special meeting date. I think it would be important for our public to hear that date tonight, and then we'll publish that accordingly. What I heard from the bond partners, they were encouraging you to meet the week of the 23rd. I would also like to put it out there that the district is closed on the 25th, 26th, and 27th for the Thanksgiving holiday. So maybe the 23rd or 24th.
So Dr. Hornak, I think in the committee of the whole, the question was, how quickly they could get us information prior to that. If it was the 23rd or the 24th, how quickly could they get us information?
We can pin that down tomorrow, but I would request that like a regular meeting. So in this case, I would hope that the 18th, and if that's not possible, we will correspond with you. But let's maybe working the other way. Would Friday at the latest of that week, that would give you Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if it were a Monday board meeting? Or would you prefer us to hold firm on the 18th?
Shoot for the 18th, but no later than Friday.
Okay, that's wonderful. We'll firm that up in the morning. So then, am I hearing the 23rd or the 24th?
23rd is a Monday, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Are we doing an evening? Probably because we wanted to get the community involved. I'm free either Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday evening, so it shouldn't be a problem for me.
I'm free as well, Monday and Tuesday. Monday's optimal, but I can make it Tuesday work as well.
I'm the same with Dr. Leonard. Monday's probably better, but Tuesday I can make work. All right, if no one else has a conflict, do you want to do that earlier in the day than like 5 or 5:36 rather than 7?
That's fine with me.
All right, let's shoot for 5:30 then.
Sounds good. Okay, so we will publish 5:30 on November 23rd. And then we will hopefully have all the documentation in your board packet on Wednesday, the 18th.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll move to student representative report from Paige.
Hi, everyone. It's really good to be here tonight. So this week I conducted a survey for my peers to take, and I got quite a few responses. And the survey was about the online learning experience for the student personally. For the first question, how has online learning been for you? The majority opinion is that it has not been good and has not been bad. It has been more of a neutral experience. For how have classes been, the majority was that classes have been difficult. For teachers, I asked how helpful teachers have been, and the majority has that they have been quite helpful. How has schoolwork been? The majority is that it has been difficult. How much schoolwork is assigned to you throughout a week period? The majority is a lot. How motivated has online learning made you? The majority opinion is extremely unmotivated, and that was a 74% majority for that one. How much effort are you putting into your schoolwork? It was a three-way tie between enough effort, decent effort, and some effort. And for personal comments that they would like to be addressed, I have that some students wish that there could be a better form of communication between students and teachers. Teachers advertise that they are available for email help or personal Google Meet time if there is a need for it. But email opportunities, like it has been hard to communicate through email because of that lack of direct response. And there may be something they need help on at the moment, but teachers aren't getting to them until hours later or even days later. Students are worried about if we go back to school, how the rise in COVID cases may be. They're worried that if we do return to school, that there will be a rise and many students will end up catching COVID. They want to know if there is going to be some pass-fail implementation for the semester, because there have been a lot of difficulties with learning and it has been much harder for the majority with this online, and it's just much different than having that classroom experience because there's no direct contact with teachers and students. There may be tech issues that cause it to be difficult for them to participate in class or to even listen to class. There were a lot of comments about stress and mental health. They have found that with online and the abundance of schoolwork being assigned, that it is causing a lot of stress, which is causing mental health to go down. I know for me personally, on my whiteboard next to me, I have over 27 things I have to do for just this week. And I know for me personally, that can be very stressful with having to balance everything that I have going on at home. And I have a job now, so trying to do that along with work, it's just a lot of conflict with scheduling. Some students want a more defined, like actual time to be on Google Meets, because there are some teachers who will talk all hour and leave little time for things to be done or discussed. And then there are some teachers who maybe talk for 5 minutes and then have students leave the Google Meet without too much direction or how to do things. Quite a few students want something different to be done with Wednesdays. They think that rather than having all classes be on Wednesdays, maybe having Wednesdays be like a designated work day, because they would have an actual time where they can sit down and get their schoolwork done. And then one comment that someone wrote to me that I wanted to point out personally that I agree with. One of the personal responses said, do not move too quickly when deciding whether to go back in person second semester just because the response might not be what you want. Work to fix the problems at hand and don't create new ones with the issues of being in person, especially with the increasing cases in Ingham County. When I read that comment, I agreed 100% that though online has its difficulties, it's ultimately better because there is less of a chance of the virus being spread around, because all it takes is for one student who may have it to come to school and then it starts spreading around the entire building. Solving the issues that we have now are better than creating new ones that potentially come with going back in person.
Paige, I just want to say thank you for sending out that survey and receiving the comments. Is it possible if you can redact names and then send those comments and maybe the survey results to Mrs. Lopez so she can send them to all of us so we can review them?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, and then also I want you, thank you for doing that. And also I want you to know that everything that you just said, other parents and guardians have said to me and I've relayed to Dr. Hornak. So I think overall the community is understanding of the situation and exactly of what you just said. So I wanted to thank you again for sending out that survey because I think it's going to be really helpful.
Muted, Mr. Perry.
Thank you. And thank you, Paige. That was excellent. So we'll move to Dr. Hallgren, both for MASB and the Ingham School Official Association.
Yes, so we did have an ISOA meeting last week. Some things that were brought up is concerns. Well, one thing that was interesting and but very concerning to me was that CPS, Child Protective Services calls, have gone way down in the last few months, and it's unlikely that that is actually reflective of a lack of need for those complaints. And just to bring that to your attention, that even though those numbers are going down, it's probably not reflective of actual results. So please try to pay attention when you're interacting with the students and try to, because we're not seeing them every day as we usually do. Just try to be more observant. And also emphasizing that there is a helpline number, dial 211, not 911, 211 for any, almost anything. If you have any concerns, need any social help at all, at 211 would be a number to call. Also emphasized was that there is going to be a spike in what's called behaviors when we do return in person. We should be expecting that. The students are still processing all of this, and that it's going to be a challenge. So just so that the teachers and everyone else is aware that they may have already considered this, but it was kind of a little surprising to me. I was not really expecting that, but we should expect a spike in those behaviors. The other thing that struck me on that meeting was that the enrollment numbers over the district, the ISD, are down approximately 1,000 students over the ISD. Where those students are was unclear to me, but I hope that they're getting something. And then I had to move on to my teaching responsibilities, so I had to leave the meeting a little early. For MASB, that's Michigan Association of School Boards. They had their General Delegate Assembly on the 5th. There was no voting. They do not have in their bylaws a procedure for voting remotely, but they did make some announcements. One which may be useful to you, especially the new board members, is they are going to offer their CBA, the continuing education credit courses, their CBA 101 class for free to any new board member through 2022. They're going to try to offer some of those, at least some of them remotely. So I would encourage our new board members to take advantage of that CBA 101 course. It's a good introduction to kind of your responsibilities and expectations as a school board member. They are starting a statewide diversity and inclusion initiative. So I think actually I'm kind of proud that Holt is a little ahead of the game on that with the work that he has been doing over the last several months to longer than that. So kudos to Holt, but the MASB is definitely working on diversity and inclusion issues as well. That's all I've got.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hallgren. Next on the agenda, Ms. Dalton, the Holt Equity and Access Team.
Thank you. So November is Native American Heritage Month. It's also a month with several important cultural celebrations. We started the month with the Mexican Day of the Dead. This weekend is Hindu Diwali Day. Also, November 20th is the Transgender Day of Remembrance. The Heat Equity and Access team has been very busy on a variety of different initiatives. And I've invited Mrs. Porter to come speak with us today about the Organizing Students Committee. I see she's already logged in here. So I will hand it over to you, Mrs. Porter. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mrs. Dalton. Good evening, board. I am very excited to be with you tonight to share some of the dynamic work happening on the HEAT Organizing Students Committee. The committee encompasses a group of passionate and committed staff who are working to examine programs, systems, and opportunities for students in character, leadership, and life skills. We see our work on the Organizing Students Committee as building leaders and competent critical thinkers who will be strong voices and caring citizens in our community. Our long-term goal is to create systems of experiences for all students to learn, practice, and implement skills that encourage confidence, competence, and independence into adulthood. So right now, our work is currently bridged into kind of two sections. Our first big project is focusing on kindergarten through 6th grade. We're working on building systematic lessons that focus on character and leadership. So these lessons will be built around common language that all students will hear, practice, and experience throughout their first 7 years in Holt Public Schools. Currently, we have 7 areas of focus: empathy, perseverance, humility, advocacy, courage, celebrating differences, and inspiring and empowering others. They will be structured similarly to the PBIS lessons that we use at K-6 around school-wide behaviors. And the idea around doing it this way was we ultimately don't want to add more pressure to the classroom, but to enhance and encourage the critical skills our youngest learners need to build their voice, to develop empathy for others, and strive for perseverance in all that they do. So I was hoping I could take a moment to share a sample of one of the lessons we're currently working on around empathy. Empathy is our first area of focus. So if you'll just give me just one moment, I will share my screen. Thank you. Sometimes it takes a second here. Okay, can everybody see this? Okay, so each of these lessons that we're currently building, each will be specific by grade K-6. And so each one will have the skill. It will have a definition of the skill that our team is working on together that will build throughout all the lessons K-6. Synonyms, so just other ways that we can help describe that particular trait, and then the rationale for that piece. Another component of it that we're including are the social justice standards that Teaching Tolerance has put out in conjunction with the project of the Southern Poverty Law Center. And they're just really dynamic in terms of helping to really focus our work into identity, diversity, justice, and action. So obviously these lessons will be grade appropriate, but they will enhance all of those figures as we use these standards to kind of help drive our focus of our learning. So if we look lower here, the lessons will also have recommendations for teachers and how to teach and practice the skill. And this includes instructional strategies, specific language models and that will help students understand, and role playing at the younger grades on how to practice these skills in daily interactions. What I think right now, though, is the most dynamic part of this is that each of these lessons will have a collection of books that will highlight the skill and can be used to teach the skills. So these are some of the examples that we've started with some of the books here, but, and I'll just let that kind of stay there for a moment. But, you know, we all feel on the team that literature brings to life the soul of human interaction and the complexities and nuances of relationships. So it is a priority to build a list of texts at each grade that embrace these skills while simultaneously being mindful to represent all students within their pages. This means making sure to include authors and illustrators of color while ensuring that the characters, situations, and lessons within these books represent the fabric of all. And I just have to say a huge thank you to Wilcox's librarian, Wendy Guilfoyle. She has been instrumental in helping us organize the books for this. She literally sent me 40 books to go through K4, and she continues to do that work. So I really just wanted to make sure that I highlighted all the tremendous work she's been doing. And so as you can see here, we've got the beginnings on this kindergarten lesson where we have an anchor text to kind of teach the skill. And this is still just in the beginning stages. We're really starting just to roll with this. And then we'll continue on with different stories that are around a variety of different topics within empathy, both realistic fiction, fantasy, nonfiction, etc. And then down here we have a list of the books that we want currently at each grade level and like little synopses as we're working through which ones we're going to prioritize in these lessons. So that is what is going on case 6 on the organizing students committee, but we do have a second project in the beginning stages. And I'm sorry if I need to stop if anyone has a question, but I was just going to save them for the end, which we are brainstorming and discussing the need of soft skills for students at 712 that will allow them to practice communication, collaboration, and build pathways to their goals for the future. We see the case 6 character and leadership lessons as the foundation, but we'll then need to build upon them in 7th and 8th grade. Discussions have started in how, when, and where these skills and lessons would take place in these grades in order for all students to receive them. From conversations with secondary programs within Holt Public Schools, it is apparent that many students struggle with these soft skills in their early years of high school, which can then inhibit them from qualifying for a variety of programs and opportunities that Holt Public Schools provides. Again, our focus is to ensure that not just some of our students have these opportunities, but all have access and pathways to success in whatever post-education journey they choose. So this is achieved by making sure all students have the character and leadership skills needed to work toward their dreams. So the secondary piece is in the beginning stages, but we're really excited about all the possibilities to come on the Organizing Students Committee and feel that when we build a system of experiences systematically for K-12, that our students will be unstoppable and conscientious citizens. So just one last thing before, if you have any questions for me, but I just wanted to kind of take a time for a moment to call out that you know, we have a lot of passionate people on this committee and across all of HEAT, but I know that we would love to have more people to help support this work. The more people we have, the more ideas, creative thinking, and collaboration that can occur. All the teams and committees on HEAT are 100% committed to the students of Holt Public Schools, and we want all students to be seen and heard. So if you are interested in joining HEAT and the HEAT committee, you can reach out to myself, Leah Porter. I know Mrs. Amy Dalton on the board would help direct you in the right way, Mrs. Jessica Cotter, who's also on this call, Mr. Chris Billingsley, many others, Mr. Knighton, Mr. Dominic Knighton, Mr. Robert Dozier, all people that are big into our HEAT committees at this time, and we would love to get you connected. And you know, I just thank you so much for letting me speak tonight. So.
Thank you, Mrs. Porter. That was amazing. I'm overwhelmed by the thoroughness and the effort that has gone into the lessons that you've created from you and the entire Organizing Students Steering Committee. So I really appreciate that. Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Porter this evening? Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is all I have this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Porter. Thank you, Ms. Dalton. We'll move to 5.5, Ms. Bureau, board policy updates.
Earlier this evening during our committee of the whole, we reviewed 4 pieces of policy for updating. Now I've set them some here, there. Threatening behavior towards staff members, number 4362.01. It was clarification of what constitutes threatening behavior. (5611) due process rights, and 5610 emergency removal and expulsion, suspension and expulsion of students, which clarified, which added preponderance of evidence as a standard, and facility security, which discusses the addition of temporary installation of locking devices on doors. They're commonly called boots is one type. And so we did a first reading on those. If there's any further questions from the board before next month, I would be asking for a vote on those changes, and we will go ahead for the public and add those 4 pieces of policy to the front policy page if anybody wants to take a look at those before our vote next month. The only other addition I have would be the resolution regarding the Open Meetings Act. Again, I think everything the legislature has done is good. I think this is a precautionary measure to make sure that we do not, just to make sure that we have our bases covered. So I would ask tonight for approval on that resolution regarding the Open Meetings Act for us to be able to do things virtually. And that's all I have for our policy update this month.
Do we have that resolution, Ms. Bureau?
Was that in our packet last month? Is that the one that was in
It
there?
was in the packet last month. Well, I mentioned it when I read through the packet. I don't remember seeing it for this month.
I don't see it.
I can send it to you if you want, and we can do it later, or you can look at last month's.
If I recall, I believe that after we did the board packet over the weekend before our last meeting is when they did they did the changes. So you sent us post meeting a link.
Okay. All right. You know what? That makes sense in my brain then. Let's not do the resolution on it. This was to Band-Aid, I believe, through the Monday or the meeting that we had, and then 2 days later when they actually approved it. That makes sense, because I read this like 4 or 5 times today, and I felt like I was missing something. So no, I think we're good. Again, to me, it was a Band-Aid in case, but thinking of the timeline of last month, I think we're okay not doing it.
All
So
right.
we can move on from that. Thank you, Mrs. Lopez.
Thank you, Ms. Bureau. 5.6, Superintendent's Report, Dr. Hornak.
Thank you, President Perry. Much of the academic work will be captured by our curriculum directors shortly. So as a result, I'm going to avoid duplicating. And you have seen my packet, but I'm going to highlight a few things. We have requested quotes from the wrestling club for mats. From time to time, we are served a lawsuit, or we are required to investigate a concern. And we've been advised by our legal counsel to inform the public that at the request of our attorneys, we will not be able to comment due to the pending litigation. This is also the case when an investigation has been turned over to the authorities. That's a kind of a standing reminder. I'm also domains 4 through 6. I'm happy to report that I, on behalf of the Holt Scholarship Committee, submitted a grant application to the PNC Foundation, and we were just awarded a $5,000 scholarship. So that's a little bit of good news there. We held a fall update on October 28th, and the session focused on our return to face-to-face instruction, and a portion of the time was devoted to responding to questions submitted by members of our public. We received a great deal of positive feedback regarding that. I bet we'll do another one at some point. I'm happy to report that we have exceeded 100,000 meals distributed. And so our team behind the scenes at our food service office continues to do great things. They're out delivering in 9 different locations on Mondays, as well as serving as a pickup location on Monday evenings as well. Again, over 100,000 meals. So thank you to that crew. Our tech team behind the scenes has reduced the number of tech tickets from 1,500 to a more manageable typical number of approximately 20. So while it took us a few weeks to do that, they have done incredible work working through that. I'd also like to acknowledge how much I appreciated Paige's comments tonight, and I welcome her to the Board of Education as the student rep and look forward to working with her moving forward. Really appreciate just the way you handled yourself tonight, and we hadn't had a chance to connect a whole lot, so nice job. Board, this one is just another thank you to you. It was several months ago that we requested you consider declaring racism a health crisis, and it's just with deep appreciation that I thank you for acknowledging this is a health crisis, and you have declared racism a health crisis in Holt Public. So I appreciate that tremendously. I should say we do it as Holt Public. We are, speaking of this, we are actively engaged with the Midwest and Plains Equity Assistance Center, and we're HEAT and a subcommittee will continue to go through some training and some capacity building moving forward. Starting this week, we will be offering central office hours for staff members to Zoom with us to ask us questions about virtual learning, the potential bond, and any other topic. This week in particular is geared towards secondary staff, and approximately every 2 weeks we'll have office hours, and it'll toggle between secondary staff and elementary staff. And in the event that we don't have a whole lot of people accessing us, we'll probably blend the two, but we have dates from now into spring break scheduled, and we'll be promoting those accordingly. I'll be in equity training on November 12th, which is Thursday, and that's a 9 to 2 or 9 to 3, I think. So I think that completes the superintendent's report, unless you have questions.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hornak.
You bet.
I just have a couple of items. I just want everybody to know, public and others, that, you know, when we do return to face-to-face learning, you know, we have to do so as a community. It's not just the students, it's not just the teachers, it's the parents, it's the families. And as you heard tonight from two different sides of either returning or not returning, neither one is right and neither one is wrong at the same time. And as Paige had mentioned, you know, we've got work to do. You know, there's some emotional issues with students, and there's probably some remediation that we have to do. That's not going to be accomplished unless we do it together as a community. So please keep that in mind. And for a lot of people, you may be wondering, hey, wait a minute, you know, with all the spikes in COVID, why are these people thinking about returning? And the answer to that is it takes time. It takes, you know, weeks and weeks for us to hire things like bus drivers, parapros, subs where we need them, the PPP equipment to be dispersed in the buildings, changes that have to be made, food service and so on. So even though things may look the way they are today, we just need that lead time. And then lastly, I'd just like to underscore that, you know, even though we're not face to face, we have a lot of great things happening. You know, our soccer team came as about as close as you possibly can. And our football team is moving on in finals. And then that moves me to the next item, which this is just a great video. If you could, Ms. Lopez.
Yes. To set it up, the 7th through 12th grade choir classes got together. Mr. and Mrs. Burke teach choir. Mr. Burke teaches at the high school level and Mrs. Burke teaches at the junior high level. And about a week or so ago, it says here October 26th, they put together this compilation, and I'm sure you'll all agree it is absolutely moving and beautiful. So here we go.
Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear? Like you could fall and no one would hear? Well, let that lonely feeling wash away. 'Cause maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. And when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand. And oh, someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need friends to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around, you will be found. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found.
There we
Yeah.
have it. Isn't that phenomenal?
That was awesome.
That was nice.
And I understand they'll be back at future board meetings, possibly.
My understanding that there's a new arrangement of our alma mater. And I believe that Mr. Burke is working on that and would like to present that, I think, for the first time to our Board of Education at a future meeting.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Curriculum, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to.
I'd like to give a big thank you to Mr. Perry for putting that right before the curriculum section, because both I'm teared up and like who can follow that. So thanks.
All right, I'll save you, Jessica. Dr. Hornak has one item before you guys get on.
Thank you, President Perry, and it does tie nicely with the curriculum team. I would like the board to be aware that the curriculum team tonight is going to be presenting our Return to Learn plan. And as was previously discussed, it's important for the public to know we have a plan. And this plan has morphed and it's evolved and it's changed and it's been modified by a number of stakeholders. To that end, I'd also like the board to be aware that all 5 unions have offered their verbal support of the plan that you're about ready to see. And in your board packet, there is written support from the Holt Education Association. President Perry has asked that I read this to you, and it was dated November 4th, 2020. Dear Holt School Board members, the Holt Education Association's negotiators have been working on behalf of our members to co-construct a Return to Learn plan in collaboration with Holt's administrative team. At this time, we support the district's recommendation to continue our current remote learning plan and return to face-to-face instruction no sooner than January 2021 as described in the plan. Our support is based on current public health data, predicted future health data, as well as feedback gathered from our membership. We will continue to collaborate with the administrative team moving forward to ensure that all stakeholders have a clear understanding of the metrics we support when considering a return to face-to-face instruction. Sincerely, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 negotiators. So.
All right, moving into our part.
Handoff.
All right, I'm going to share my screen if that's okay, so that the public can also see the slides that I'm referring to as Steve and I talk. All right, can everybody see that? Great.
Yep.
All right, so I think we shared last month, but for those that weren't present, we are required by the state of Michigan under the Extended Continuity of Learning Plan to share specific data points with you every month, as well as reconfirm our instructional delivery model. So much of this you have seen similar structure last month with, this is just with updated data. This is also, just if you're following along, I believe is page 61, 62 of your board packet. So if it's easier for you to look on your own screen at the board packet, you can look there too. An overview of what we will talk about. Some of these data points are required by the state, academic and attendance data points. We also include the health data points. In the near future, we are hoping to replicate a metrics table that is fluid and updated weekly around specific data points that we'll be tracking as a district. We're going to use the model similar to what Ann Arbor Public Schools is using if you'd like to see the template we're looking to model after. In working with our different groups, we're hoping to agree on some metrics. Then we'll make an instructional environment recommendation. We will also update on our transition plan back to face-to-face whenever that should happen. We continue to work on that so that it's well thought out and ready to go. Then there will be an opportunity for public comment. And then finally, we will ask you to vote to confirm the recommended instructional environment recommendation. So that will happen at the end of the presentation. There will be a clear moment where we will be asking for a vote. All right. I think that's you, Mr. Netzel.
Yep.
Good evening. The first slide that I'm going to reference to, I believe, is on page 63 in your packet. So the couple things I'd like to highlight from this slide. One is on the left-hand side, you will see the academics that talk about the goals, the academics that talks about students progressing towards the goals, and then how our students are below grade level being supported. So those three components within this plan reflect that we talked about last month. But what I would like to add is on the right-hand side, we have provided updated K through 8 benchmarking data from Ames Web Plus and NWEA. Part of the mandate was each district is required to complete the benchmarking process by a certain number of days and a deadline. And I wanted to share with you the results. And a couple of things I want to add to this to clarify for understanding is the first thing is I want to compliment our staff, our support staff, our building principals, instructional coaches. It was quite the task to assess all of our students, kindergarten through 8th grade online. So I just want to emphasize that again, and I will talk about some specific data points on this table that reflect some barriers that we ran into. But I want to also compliment again our staff across the board about their work and efforts to get students to complete this task online. I also want to remind that we were only in year 2 of Ames Web Plus and NWEA. So just as we're trying to learn this tool and administer it, we also had to face the online component this year. So I want to mention that. A couple things with the benchmarking that I want to share. Some of the goals that were part of this is we wanted to minimize the amount of instructional time that was lost by having to do these benchmarks. We also we had an opportunity to streamline the benchmarking. So in past years and years moving forward, at each grade level, we usually provided or assessed multiple screeners. This year, we really narrowed it down and did the minimum. We wanted with the minimum to also, though, give us some data that was useful. And so we did intentionally reduce the number of screeners given. Unfortunately for NWEA, there is no reduction. It's adaptive test, so we were not able to do that. I also wanted to keep in mind that one of the goals was to keep the safety and health of our students and staff. And so again, as I started this presentation, this was all done remotely. I also want to share some barriers. And you will notice that some of these barriers are reflected in the top part where it talks about the % of students who are tested. If you'll notice at at second, third, and fourth in math, you will notice a significant reduction of the % of students tested. And I will share with you why. And it has nothing to do with the efforts of our staff, our students. There were some barriers. One is we had to use a special app called the Test Nav, and that did not work, or it was very difficult for students to navigate. If you had an old silver Chromebook, it wasn't cooperating. If you had your own device, you had to upload it yourself at home. And so these were some of the barriers that we ran into that are reflected in the participation rate for those grade levels. The other piece that we always wonder about is the validity of the screener, right? In the building, we're in small groups, we're one-on-one. This was all done remote. So again, there's some question with that. At the end, you will see that we also provided to you the % of students that were in the average range or above. And not only did we do that for all students, but we also provided some subgroup data for you as well. So the question is, what do we do with this data? Well, one is that we are mandated to screen, and we have to report these results to CEPI. And we have to also, in addition, and kudos to our tech team, we have to provide the results to our families as well. And that will be through PowerSchool. And that was just kind of navigated through the last few days. So In addition, our classroom teachers do use this data to help triangulate with other data points to help best service our students moving forward. So are there any questions with this slide or this information?
I have a quick question, if I
Yeah.
may. Well, actually, a couple of things. First of all, I see it says the goal is for 100% of students to be at grade level. But then when I see the reporting of the data, that at grade level isn't exactly the terminology that you use. Do we see fall in average range or above to mean at grade level? Is there a reason why we don't use the same terminology?
I can look into clarification, but it would mean the same thing.
Okay.
Trustee Dalton. So we can convert the language to make it similar to read the same way.
Thank you.
I can add just a little bit to that with NWA in particular, is it doesn't measure grade level until the end of year. So the questions they're getting are not meant to be grade level till they get to the end of year. They usually start with transition grade questions, and it is self-paced, so some kids will hit grade level sooner than others, but it would be unusual for students to be at grade level at the beginning of the year. So I think usually what it does is it clumps them into an average, meaning where they're expected to be on the trajectory to being at grade level.
Right. And so I understand that. And I feel like that's like an important piece. Like, I don't know if that's an asterisk that we point out at the bottom, but if we're going to compare our goal to where they're at, then we need to say that that tool can't actually measure our goal at this time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a best guess of our kids
Right.
on the path. Yeah,
Exactly.
you're right.
No, I get it. The other thing is,
Let me add to that, just one other thing. So that's the same with Ames Web Plus, is it's going down to the 25th percentile to the 40th percentile is where our cutoff was. So it's showing that kids are basically falling in a certain tier of instruction as well. So.
Okay. The other thing is, this data is very valuable when we break it out by groups, but I'd be curious to know what that sample size is for each of those subgroups, because I know that it looks like the percentages vary from grade to grade. And then when we pull out that subgroup, I would love to see what that N value is for each one of those, just to know how much weight or emphasis to put on some of those, kind of alarming data.
That's a great point, because for some of those subgroups, it's a very small number.
And that's what I'm thinking is it may not be that valuable to dive in if we're talking about an N of 10 or 12 or something. So thank you for that.
Yeah, can I just highlight something else, Trustee Dalton, that you said I think is important is, in your input is, I agree, we will definitely look into it, that this is a screener that for some of these, it's measuring a single skill versus a child's overall understanding of a standard. So in past years, we would never emphasize as much as we are with these screeners because we would triangulate the data with other pieces we've used in the building as well, along with, like I shared earlier, for example, kindergarten, the only assessment they took was letter naming fluency. In previous years, there'd be multiple screeners that we would triangulate to get to make some better decisions. So, the district in itself has come a long ways to not putting all of our eggs in a basket on a screener, and that's a good thing. And so, I want to reemphasize that we were kind of put in a space where we had to use something that maybe isn't the most valuable data point that we would use in general. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Want to go to the next one?
Yeah, that'd be great. So this was kind of lost at the end of last year due to our COVID situation, the pandemic. But as you are aware that with the Read by Third Grade, we are required to assign or work with our parents and our students and our staff for IRIPs, individual reading improvement plans. And I just wanted to share with you that we are continuing this process as required, and I will continue to provide you updates. But what I have for you is the number of students currently at first, second, and third grade, what percentage and how many of those students have an IRIP. And remember, An individual reading improvement plan is based on a student being at least a year behind or more. And I also want to share that these decisions that are made as a team at either a grade level meeting or some type of larger meeting with multiple data points, not just the screeners that you saw before. But I wanted to highlight underneath there is some comparative data that shows you where we were this year compared to last year at almost the exact date. And I would assume there would be a continuous trend where we would have more students at each grade level, but you notice third grade threw a little bit of a loop with that trend data. So we were up 11% from last year at first, 14% at second, and then we went down 4% to third. I wish I had some reasoning behind it, and maybe I can delve into that a little bit more, but I felt that that threw it for a little bit of there was no trend there. So this is again data you've seen before, but I wanted to put it back in front of the group. Are there any questions with this?
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
When you compare the data to October of 2019, is that a cohort or is that first grade last year to first grade this year?
It's totally different cohort. So it's a totally new group of first graders. So I do have that continuous data. I can look, Trustee Dalton, as where first grade was last year to where they are this year in second grade. And my hunch, if I had to bet, would be is that we've increased from first. I'm guessing, but it's different groups of kids. Good question.
Any other questions?
All right. This slide is just a follow-up from our last board meeting. It was with the continued data around attendance. The only difference that we added is, well, we refreshed it on new weeks, but also we kind of calculated averages as well. So I just wanted to provide an update to that. And that is on page 65 in your board packet.
Can I ask one question about this slide too? And then I think I'll leave you alone.
That's okay.
I would be really curious, and I wasn't here last month, so maybe you stated this and I missed it, but I would be curious to know, what did a week average attendance look like in a week when we were in person, like a year ago? What did attendance look like each week? Because to me, these numbers look pretty great. And so, but I don't know what normal attendance looks like.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to throw a guess at you, Amy. I don't know offhand. I can ask Holly, but I would say for the elementary, it was mid 90s to higher on an everyday. I don't remember many. I mean, Holly's very, very particular in pupil accounting, and when there was anything that was abnormal, it was brought to our attention. So I would say, these reflect probably our face-to-face. I don't know, Jess, if you want to add for secondary.
I did check after the last meeting because someone asked that same question last meeting and it got me curious. I think it was Dr. Leonard, but the range, and it's hard because there's an ebb and flow to the year where you'll see more attendance and then it's tend to be some common patterns, but the numbers weren't that different. It was about a 3 to 4% difference at any given time, which, considering the way we're taking attendance, meaning they get a P for the day if they turn something in or engaged, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not doing stuff if they don't get a P right now. So it's just hard to say if our attendance numbers are really lower or our tracking just isn't as accurate.
Conversely, I'm not sure that means that they actually are attending if they do get a P, right? Because you're really only taking it. Was that what, second hour? So I don't know. I wonder about the validity of any of these numbers. You guys are doing the best you can, I know. But
yeah, attendance during virtual is a weird animal. A lot of the high school kids, especially, they do work later at night. So it's hard when they don't necessarily come to a class or to a meet. It doesn't necessarily mean they're not engaging in the work. But this, this is what the best we've got for the state is marking them for doing something each day. So yeah, it's not terribly different, honestly. All right, any other attendance questions?
Because you do this every month, right? For the next month, could you maybe just try to find last year's attendance for that same period? Just throw them up side by side. Then we won't have to ask the same question again, even with all the caveats that, we don't know how directly comparable these numbers are, but at least we'll have them up.
Yeah, right after the right after the meeting, I sat at my desk and I wrote them all down right next to it. And I was like, oh, they're not that different. And then out it went. Done. I should have shared it with you. I'm sorry about that. All right. If we're done with attendance, moving into the health data, this is a similar slide that you saw last month, just with updated data points, but we didn't move much as far as the categories the data fell into. So I have both the CDC here in their guidelines and the Ingham County's guidelines. And when I pull the data, which the data pulls from COVID Act Now and My Start Map are the places where the data is most readily available. It still puts us as having a couple data points in the lower risk category, a data point in the moderate risk, and a data point in the higher risk. And then when we look at the county, we went from medium risk and high risk to medium risk and very high risk. So the number of cases per million has increased enough since the last time we met to nudge us into that very high risk category. The data we hope to share with you in the future as these health points kind of develop and we get a little more sophisticated in how we track the change over time. We're hoping to look at similar data points, but some target metrics. And what we're looking at is what we'd be comfortable with as a district with bringing students back in. Similar data points, just presented a little bit more clearly. I'm sure these aren't unfamiliar data points to you. I think we're all watching these numbers right now, but do you have any questions on where we fall as a district? I'll also be sharing with you in the future Ingham County and our region and our state, so you can kind of compare across. For example, as of today, Ingham County was, I believe, at a 6.3% positive test rate, whereas our region is at 8.6 and the state is in the 9s, I believe. So it does show Ingham County, while increasing, isn't as high as the rest of the state.
You know, I apologize. I was intending to go to these sites myself and look, but I didn't get a chance. Are those data broken down any more finely at the county level? Because I know that a lot of the cases in Ingham County are associated with the MSU students.
Right. They do not break it down. There are some maps that show you hotspots. So you can use the map to see those hotspots, but they don't give you numbers.
So if you look at the map for Delhi Township, is it in the red hotspot or is it kind of on the edge? Or did you take a look at that or no?
I did. And generally, there's an interesting map of Ingham County that's broken by school district, actually, and it shows Holt and Mason. This was probably 2 weeks ago. I looked at it. We're light green, but Leslie and East Lansing were orange, I believe. So our neck of the woods in Ingham County still seems pretty. The numbers still seem a little flatter, I guess I'd say, than what we're seeing in our surrounding communities.
Thank you for looking at that. Like I said, I had intended to look at it. I'm glad you did. So now I can wait another few weeks and look at it again.
Ago. I try not to check too often. Like I really could get a little bit, like I like to look at the data a lot and see how it's changing. So I try to give myself a cutoff, like stop checking.
I think they call that doom scrolling now.
Yeah, you're right. That is the thing. I'm doom data scrolling in this case, but we have the data in a different format now that will show you trend lines as well. So I'll show you this, and then it'll have a couple slides that show the trend lines for the data points we're tracking.
To talk about the mitigation strategies, are you highlighting where we are based on what you would aspire us to be, or what we're doing right now with the students who are coming into the building? Or how do you determine whether we're implementing all 5 or less than that?
It's a great question. So it's both where we aspire to be and the reality of what we're seeing. So we believe that we can expect to see in all environments consistent and correct use of masks, hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette, cleaning and disinfecting, and contact tracing. What we've been pretty transparent about from the beginning is social distancing. Should we bring students back in mass, especially in our larger buildings? Up until this point, the social distancing has been 6 feet. I've read some reports that recommend 6 to 10 feet. Depending on the number of students that come back when we return face to face, I am not counting that as something we can implement all 5 correctly and consistently in that lowest green, because I can't guarantee that. And I want to be honest with the community as we're moving in that direction. So that's why I highlighted the lower risk and the moderate risk, because we'd either be implementing social distancing inconsistently or we wouldn't be doing it at all. So we would be somewhere in that category.
I think one other important thing to note is just, I see that these are the CDC indicators, but I know there's a lot of information out there that puts districts in different categories based on things like shared supplies. And I think it's really important that we be transparent with the community about what our intentions are in regard to those issues as well, because I want to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what school might look like upon return. And when we state that, you know, hopefully we would follow the guideline not to have shared supplies, but what that means for, say, science lessons or art lessons or things like that. I just think it's important that as we look at what a return would look like, we understand that it's not going to be a return to normal if we choose to follow the mitigation recommendations.
Absolutely. You are not wrong. Any other questions or comments on the health data points? All right, so moving ahead with the data we have shared, in addition to reflecting on the health data and what David had shared prior to this presentation regarding the conversations we have had with our staffing groups. I would like to highlight an important point for the board, that we are, as a district administrative team, very aware and focused on the safety of our staff and the importance of our staff if and when students return, you know, in the near future. We need our staff to operate buildings, and with the numbers we're seeing, we know some of our neighboring districts are shutting buildings, shutting classrooms, and in some districts shutting the whole district for 2-3 weeks at a time with the intention of reopening. We are at this point confident in the decision we made in the fall, and we are proud that our students have had a consistent experience from day one of school, instead of the uncertainty of coming back face-to-face for a week or two and then having to go remote. We know that creates a lot of anxiety and difficulty for our teachers. Going forward, we know that should we see the number of cases that we have with our staff now, if that were to happen in a face-to-face setting, our buildings would be closed right now. So we're trying to be very realistic, knowing staffing is a very important part of what we do. Based on that information, district administration, in collaboration with the groups David discussed earlier, we recommend staying remote with no earlier of a start date for in-mass face-to-face instruction than January 19th for TK6 and January 25th for 7-12. That would put us right at semester break. So it's no earlier than those dates. Of course, it is a board decision. We have a January 11th board meeting where we would revisit potentially the next steps after that. We have been and will continue to serve our special populations in face-to-face capacity as we can do so safely. But even that, we're conscious of how to do that safely and some of the anxiety around even our smaller interactions. So this has been a very elaborate ongoing conversation every day. There's another factor to consider. That's one of the reasons we're going to start the staff forums this week. We want to make sure we're available to staff to have face-to-face conversations or Zoom to Zoom. We will be surveying the community shortly to give them an opportunity to indicate if their student would be returning, and that would allow us to start developing the protocols. As Amy or Trustee Dalton had indicated, we want to be as transparent as possible with our families when they're making that very important decision. So we'll be sharing what they can expect classrooms to look like, and how we will be supporting both our students who stay remote as well as those that return face-to-face. So that community survey will be coming soon. We will continue to work closely with our staff through surveying to find out comfort levels and PPE needs in order to prepare our building. So that's our proposal at this point, our recommendation. The next steps of this process I do want to share the transition update. I can't remember if that's.
Yeah, I got it. So I think between Jessica and what she just mentioned and Dr. Hornick, how we started before we began the presentation. On the left-hand side, I believe it's page 68. That continues to be our template that we work from for the return to face-to-face. This has been vetted through lots of different stakeholder groups, lots of feedback. It's in draft form. It continues to be adjusted and tweaked. But this is the plan that we're referencing to, that we're moving towards. We know there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. But again, this is our draft that we continue to modify. On the right-hand side, Jessica has mentioned some of these are ready. We held a community forum where, Trustee Dalton, you just mentioned, how do we allow our community to know, to be what it's going to be like when they go back in the classroom? And I believe that as a team, we really emphasize that at the community forum, that it's not going to be fall of, 2019. It's going to be very different at all different levels. Dr. Hornick mentioned the staff forums that are going to start, and we'll be hosting those. We continue to revise the return to learning plan and protocols. We had our first meeting about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks. It was really, really beneficial. The group was made up of lots of different stakeholders and had great conversations. And I believe, again, we're meeting next week as well. So we'll continue that practice. And then, as Jess mentioned earlier, we want to be very intentional with the surveys to our families. We want them to have a very clear understanding of what it will look like upon our return, so they can make an informed decision, with knowing that things change. But again, we want to provide as much of the foundation before they make that response in the survey. So that will be coming. The next steps following this slide is that we move into public comment in regards to our extended COVID learning plan. And then we ask the board to reconfirm and the instructional environment and the recommendations that we have provided. So with that, I believe.
Can I just add, sorry, can I
Yeah.
just add one thing? So between Dr. Hornick and Steve and myself, we have our own children at every grade level in the district. So I have some students in the K4 level and 5-6, and I just want to reiterate to the board how difficult of a decision and process it is when we know remote learning is not the same as face-to-face. We continue to watch our teachers do amazing and impressive things, and we continue to watch our students surprise us with the amount of independence and creative thinking they're able to bring to the table. And I don't know how to express how complex this decision is and how often we talk about it and just belabor every facet of the complications of it and the struggles it brings for families. But we really believe, for the safety of our staff and students, that the recommendation of to wait till January is the safest option.
I'm going to say this every month until God willing, I don't have to say this anymore, but I want to thank you and Steve for, you didn't sign up to do this. I'm sure you will welcome when you get to go back to actually doing curriculum type things. I just want to thank you for all the extra work and stress you guys have been going through for the last month. And like I said, I hope I don't have to say that for too many times, but I suspect we'll have to say it at least a couple more times, and I'll keep doing it because I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And with that, I think we move to public comment.
We will. So if there is anyone that would like to address the board only on the reconfirmation of instructional environment, you may do so at this time. Noting that the rules of before still apply, and that is that there is a 5-minute time limit per speaker. We ask that you be courteous. We also ask that you not use any employee's name nor any student name. And then lastly, if you could, please state your name for the record.
President Perry, I have 2 who have pre-signed up.
Okay.
Brandon Curran
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon Kern. I'm here on behalf of I am the Holt Education Association's Board of Education representative. I want to thank you guys for taking all this into consideration tonight. It's a hard decision, and I appreciate through this entire process the open doors of communication that we've had with central office and the Holt Education Association. We are standing alongside and in agreement with the current plan as presented to not return no earlier than January. So all I can say is, as someone who has been a student in this district and a teacher in this district, I'm really proud and impressed, as always, with how we are putting science first, health first, and safety first. So with that, I am just going to wrap up my time now. So thank you guys again for all your hard work.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bureau, the other person?
Shannon Barker.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome Dr. Leonard and Ms. Jones. I'm Shannon Barker. I'm a parent of 3 Holt students, and I'm also the principal of Diamonddale. And I just want to reiterate that remote learning is super challenging, and I cannot agree with what Jess had to say just a few minutes ago about the constant conversation, the internal struggles that we've had from July, just like you guys have. And I think Steve mentioned it earlier on how we continue to talk about the remote, talk about face-to-face, continue to make changes so that we can best suit all of our families, our students, and of course our staff members as well. I did listen earlier to both of the previous speakers, both parents, and really talking about the challenges of the positive gains that their student was experiencing with the videoing, asynchronous, allowing to have extra supports, as well as the struggles from the student that was feeling disengaged and not supported, and the struggles that those parents were feeling. And having a high school student, and just like Jess stated earlier, my children range across the gamut as well. I'm in the 5-6 building, I'm in the 7-8 building, as well as high school. And when I heard Ms. Tompkins share the survey results, I was definitely interested to hear, since I have a senior as well. And as a parent, it is very challenging as well, working in the building and supporting my own children. 2 of them are doing just fine, and my 3rd one needs extra support. And so I understand what that is like. I empathize with these families and parents. So Ms. Tompkins, I want to thank you. Thank you for talking about the positives, as well as bringing forth the challenges as well, because I think it's really important that we hear that. So thank you for that. Just like every other educator across America, I think that all students should be in school, and I am concerned for their welfare, and I'm concerned for their mental welfare. I'm concerned, and I think it was Trustee Helgren talked about, CPS and our kids getting fed, and that the reports are down. And I agree that that is definitely not because there is less abuse going on or that kids are not going hungry, but possibly because maybe we aren't seeing it or hearing as well. So I'm not sure about that. It is a concern every day that we talk about. I want to talk about when we return. I'm concerned about us thinking about this right now when health concerns are at an all-time high. Earlier, Trustee Dalton talked about returning to learn and heading back face-to-face and what that would look like, and being transparent with our families, making sure that everybody knows that this is not going to look like traditional school. This is not going to look like what they have experienced in the past. And I think that it's really important that we're transparent what that does look like. Yes, we have a plan, and until we can get our survey sent out so that we can accurately understand how many students are coming back and what that will look like so that we can get everything in place, it's very challenging. I'm really concerned about the stress of switching back from face-to-face to remote, and then from remote back to face-to-face, and what kind of stress that will cause on our families. I have 4 staff members that their students, their own children, have been through this multiple times, and it is causing them a lot of stress, as well as hearing from other families in their own school districts, students that went to school, parents gave up childcare, and now they're back at home, and now they don't have childcare. So that going back face to face, then switching, we know that that will happen. We know for a variety of reasons that that will happen. So I think we need to make sure that we take that into account too. And I'm concerned how stressful that will be. I've heard from teachers in other districts with the stress of last minute. Okay, now you need to get things ready to go home. This is not ideal, but what I have heard from our staff members is they're finally starting to get into a groove. They're feeling positive. They feel like they're in a good place. I'm hearing from, and I continue to hear from families and parents that this is not easy or ideal, but our elementary parents, which is who I hear from on a day-to-day basis, are feeling supported. Their students are learning and they are showing growth. Teachers are teaching using a variety of styles, whole group, small group. I was in today and I saw a teacher, she's up to now, she's doing one-on-one meetings with kids. It is amazing. They're doing synchronous learning, they're doing asynchronous, they're videoing, and they are doing this because they are trying to meet the needs of all of our families. Families that are working and kids have to get on at night, they can watch the videos. Families that are home or kids that are at childcare, they're able to be on live and feel supported. Our interventionists are meeting with small groups and individuals. Most importantly, what I have noticed is our relationships are being made. Our teachers are working every single day, and sometimes it's just for that first 30 minutes of class. Kids can get on, they can talk about whatever they want. It's more of like a first 30-minute early social hour, if you will. They're building that community. Kids want to be there. Kids are sharing, they're interacting with their peers, and most of all, what I noticed is they seem happy and they're smiling and they're engaging. And that really warms my heart.
We're at the 5-minute limit.
I will stop, President Perry. I just wanted to close and say, I believe everyone is looking out for the welfare of their students, families, and I thank you all for your time.
Thank you. I think that was it for those that signed up. There is an opportunity for anybody from the public who has not signed up.
We have
Raise
3
your-
hands up. Sally Hawk Harrison.
Hi there, it's me again. I don't have contact because I've been home and quarantined with the family that I normally would, but I know before that, the 3 weeks I've been gone, they were struggling. They have the kindergartner and the 2nd grader at Wilcox, and they were very much struggling. The student was struggling, the kid was struggling. The teachers are fabulous. I have heard the teachers be so interactive and so wonderful and interactive. My concern is, and I appreciate all the work that Jessica and Steve have done on these statistics for the health part of it. But once again, like I said last month, it is not broken down by age. It is not broken down by the under 18 group. And Charlie and I proved it. We're over 55 and we call group that is the most at risk. And so that's our teachers and that's our bus drivers and that's our food prep people and all of that, parapros. They are the over 55 group that could get this. And if they get it, then they could spread it to not only each other, but to the children, to the students. And that's the kind of statistics that I would like to see broken out of the moderate and the severe and all the things that they've done. I know that the week that I was diagnosed for Berry Eaton County, because we are Dimondale, that there were in that 1 week, there were 30 new cases. and most of them were over 18. So I fit in that category. Definitely over 18. So yeah, it's one of those things. I appreciate all you're doing. I appreciate the teachers and all of that, but where are the statistics that you're going to be transparent with the public about the ages of who is getting this, and not scare the parents that it could get their kid, kind of thing? Because it's rare for a child to get it. That's all I got. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have Brandy.
Hi, I'll be quick. I wasn't sure if I could speak again, but many of you probably don't know. I work at Sparrow. So we are back to 3 calls a week. Current COVID positive patients in Sparrow tonight is at 83. In March, we were barely above 30. Friday, we were at 54. So between Friday and today, that's our increase. I can tell you Sparrow is processing 30,000 tests a day, COVID tests a day, 30,000. We get a breakout just from Sparrow. Now, these are only tests that Sparrow has done by age range. I can tell you that our school children positivity rate coming from Sparrow is over 6%. So, while I understand these are trying times, I think the board is doing an excellent job, and I think waiting until January is the right call. I'm telling you, Sparrow is taxed. If we open more schools, the spread is very real. We don't have the staff. We don't. We've got our own staff going down. We're calling in traveling nurses, but the Midwest rate of infection right now is so high, we can't get traveling nurses. So we, as a community, need to sit back. We honestly need to go back to March. We don't need to shut the state down, but we need to be understanding that it is real. The line that we're getting is it's like fairy dust in the community. Tom Izzo said it himself today. He's done the mask. He's been very vigilant. He's done everything. Even our president of Sparrow is saying, you can do everything right. It is just that present right now. So putting that out there that it's very real right now. It is hitting younger kids. And I think you're doing the right thing by holding off, looking at what January brings. And I agree that let's fine tune the issues we're having with online. Let's get down to what the core problems are and try to fix those problems so that everybody can stay safe and everybody can thrive and learn. So that's my 2 cents.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bureau, I think we had one other.
We've got 2 more. Walt Sutherland's next.
Thank you, board members, for encouraging staff and community input. Thank you to the curriculum office for gathering and guiding information that is completely out of your wheelhouse and responsibility. My name is Walt Sutherland. I'm a parent in the district. I'm also the principal at Washington Woods. And having an opinion on returning to learn is about as dangerous as having an opinion on the election last week. But as a servant of people, I will work to make anything work. We must understand that all educators agree this is not the best environment for learning for kids. We also must understand that enacting the safety guidelines as they have been provided will not resemble schools as we have known it. Watching districts across the state and colleagues in other districts and our own area swap back and forth from virtual to in-person models and everything in between has created phenomenal amounts of stress on kids, families, and school staff. A specific concern I have after firsthand experience is the stressors upon our kids and workforce that contact tracing and subsequent quarantines will have on a consistent delivery of education. I was impressed and in full agreement with student Paige Thompson's assessment that creating the most consistent educational environment based on science and safety for all would be the best priority, so that whatever plan you make, it is thought through and does not bounce back and forth. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Heather.
Yes, hello. I work in the district, but most importantly, I'm a parent of 2 kids in the district. I have a high school and a junior high student. And I just want to say that I know that some people have concerns and it's not going smoothly, but and I know being on social media that there's a loud minority sometimes in the negative. And I just wanted to say that I have a typical learner and also a child with a 504. And the teachers in both school buildings, the junior high and the high school, have bent over backwards to be accommodating, to help us, to lower our stress as much as they can control that. But they have adapted assignments, adapted due dates. They've done just about everything. And during conferences, they repeated over and over again that our mental well-being and our children's mental well-being was the #1 concern. So I encourage these parents who are having a negative experience to really reach out to their teachers. And, just expect your teachers to respond during school hours. No, they're not superhuman. If you're doing stuff at midnight, don't expect a response, but also some of those teachers will get back to you at that time. But just be open and honest with your kids' teachers about how it's going. And I guarantee you 90% of the time, those teachers will have an adaptation for you, a suggestion for you, to whatever. But if you let them know your concerns, all 14 teachers we've had to work with have been amazing. And like I said, they all said mental health is #1. So if you just are honest with your teachers and you're having problems, I guarantee that they'll help you. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bureau, anyone else?
I see no more hands up.
Okay, with that, we'll close the public comment portion. And I would entertain a motion.
I'll
I
make
move-
the mo- oh,
Go ahead.
Rob.
I move that we adopt the return to learn plan as described by the curriculum committee to return no earlier than January 19th.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Ms. Bureau, if you could do a roll call.
Halgren,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Dalton,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Bureau, yes, and Robo.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. Thanks, curriculum.
Thank you to the board.
Move
Thanks to the public for getting us some more information. we do really value your feedback. Sometimes we ask for public comment and we get crickets. I'm glad that we had some people stepping up and giving us some feedback. I really appreciate that.
All right, we'll move to 6.2, the facilities update.
Good evening, board. Welcome, Mr. Leonard and Mrs. Jones. Ms. Jones, I look forward to meeting you in person someday. I'm coming to you this evening to ask for action on purchasing a new Ford F-150 truck for the facilities department. I kind of laid out why, and I gave you, a little bit of a backstory, but we've got two older trucks that are failing. They are both in poor condition. Floorboards are rotted out. Cab corners are rusted. Brakes on the one are completely shot. The transmission on the other truck has been replaced, I believe, twice that I know of, and I think maybe 3 times. So that being said, I'd like to purchase one Ford truck for my department and then give the transportation mechanic and the transportation director, Donna Schultz, my other truck, the gray 2006, I believe Chevy 3/4 ton 4-wheel drive truck that Leroy, the mechanic, would be able to put a toolbox in and respond to breakdowns and accidents instead of driving another bus. That also would give Donna a vehicle to for the same purposes if it's not needed for Leroy to take tools. I am asking for action this evening. I did get 3 prices, and Signature Ford came in the lowest to $26,558. And I'm asking, as always, for that 10% buffer just in case something changed from when I got the numbers.
Is this a plow truck, or is this just we're driving around truck?
This would be a driving around truck, but I do help out moving things around quite often if it's convenient for me to do. It's not an everyday thing, but I will tell you that through COVID, I've utilized one of the extra trucks that having a maintenance job open, and it's really came in handy. So again, I don't do it all the time, but definitely when I can help out, I do, and if it's convenient.
So at this price, it sounds like it's a lower end truck. You probably couldn't plow with it if you wanted to, or you shouldn't plow with it if you wanted to, or is that not true?
Correct, Rob. I didn't go with a heavy duty truck. Number one, because of gas mileage. The gray one that I'm going to give to Leroy and Donna gets probably about 7 miles to the gallon. And so I thought, being a little more green and energy conscious, that I'd go with a 1/2 ton, which I believe that's all we need. It still can handle the weight and do the things that we need it to do for our department.
So I know in the last couple of years, I think somewhere in the last couple of years, we did replace or get a new plow truck.
We got 2, I believe, a year or so ago, and that brought up our full fleet. Other than the dump truck, after this truck, we'll be in very good shape. I believe, I gave you the years and the models and the mileage on everything. We will be in very good shape. The only other truck in the future that we might need to look at is the dump truck, and it's a 2000. We are babying that. We pretty much are only using that for salting and just pretty much leaving it. We drive it a little bit just so it doesn't sit all the time, but like I said, we're babying that truck because we need it for the salter.
Okay, I was just trying to make sure that we weren't in danger of needing a new plow truck or 2 in the next year or so. It sounds like we're in pretty good shape.
Correct. So I'm asking this evening for action on that. And then the other item I was bringing to you, just so you know what's going on, is security. One of those other trucks, security at the high school, has been using one of those. I guess I start my 4th year in January, so the full 3 years I've been here, they've used one of my trucks to perform their duties during the day and in the evening and the weekends. Instead of buying after looking at the used trucks, and the prices are just very, very high right now, I think I came up with an idea to buy another Gator, a John Deere Gator, which would be another 4-wheel drive vehicle that we could use in the winter and in the summer. Let security use our older Gator. We'll take the new one and put the plow on it, so we'll be able to still do the salting and plowing at the high school sidewalks. And then we would have, when security's not using it, then my department could use it in the summertime and off hours for doing grounds work and, just facility things. Here at the North Campus, Washington Woods, it can be driven across the street and utilized. So it's not just going to sit. There was a couple of reasons I did that. One, a pickup truck does some pretty severe damage to the yards if we drive them around. Sometimes we have to, and we don't have a choice. The Gator's much lighter, but it also has four-wheel drive. It has a dump box. It has heat and doors. So in the wintertime, the security folks would, stay comfortable. It has headlights and flashers, so they'd be safe when they're doing the traffic duties. So again, thinking green too, the gas, they run on a tank of gas forever. So it would save us a lot of money and service costs for oil changes and gas costs. And again, it doesn't damage the yard when you drive it on it. So that's just something I wanted to let you guys know that we're going to do. And I need action on the facility truck. I don't believe I need action on the Gator.
Rick, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
In the first of all, thank you for putting this together. In the fourth paragraph, I'm kind of confused because it says the district had 2 older trucks which are not currently in use. They're in poor condition, missing floorboards, major brake, transmission problems. And then it says these trucks are used by security for patrolling around district buildings.
So before we shut down, that was the case. Since we had shut down the blue truck, we were using it for the night security at Sycamore and the junior high, and the master cylinder let loose. So all the brake fluid came out. And the red truck, the transmission went on Leroy and Donna.
Okay, so what are we doing with those trucks other than having them sit somewhere?
That's exactly what they're doing right now. The last 2 that we got rid of, I sold on a state auction website, and I'd like to do that again. That way it's kind of out of my hands and I let the state run that.
Okay.
Pay a small fee.
And the truck that you're going to give to Leroy, what is the mileage on that? Or the miles per gallon?
It doesn't do well. It gets like probably 9 miles to the gallon. I've never clocked it, but it's not very good. The truck that I'm driving now is it's 19 or 18, and I'm using one of the vacant maintenance positions truck, and I get about 2 tanks a month. And the gray truck, it was more like 3.5 to 4. So I know it's it's really not great on gas. I don't know how much Leroy and Donna will be driving it. I guess I have not asked them, but I know that there's a definite need for that.
So the new one that you're going to get, does that get better gas mileage?
Much.
So wouldn't we want to give that one to Leroy for bus runs?
I don't think he would utilize it enough to make it worth it to where I'm out and about pretty much all day, every day. So I could speak to Leroy and Donna to see what they think mileage wise, but as far as I know, and I don't know if maybe Ms. Cosgrove maybe has some insight, but I don't think they go that much where they're on, breakdowns or accidents. Luckily, I don't think it's very often. So I don't know if Kim would have anything to add to that or not, but.
So 2 things, they do have to go get parts, and right now they have to drive a bus to go get parts. But what happens is if we have a bus accident and they have to bring a bus, Leroy a lot of times will drive the broken bus back if it can, and then I could hop into a truck and take it back, but I couldn't take a bus back. And so it gives more flexibility on that. But on the parts, most of the parts are delivered to us. So it is not used every day or every week, but it is used.
Okay. And then for the Gators, I'm not really sure how many Gators a school district really needs, but when security is driving the Gator and they have to chase somebody in a car, I mean, what purpose does that serve?
I spoke to Mr. Willard about that. I don't believe we don't do that. I believe we would let Officer Bellinger know if it's something once it gets on the road. I don't think we do that. And to answer your question, my department this would make 2 for the whole, this whole campus. And then I believe that athletics has a golf cart and a small gator.
Okay.
So the
And
one
so-
gator that we have, we utilize it for plowing snow and salting all the sidewalks at the main campus. I would take all that off and put it on the new one. That way we would get more, more years out of the older one.
So there's only 2 for the main campus and not for any of the other campuses.
Correct. And that's where I was kind of excited about maybe, this coming up summer that I would have another one that the guys across the street could utilize to do their tree trimming and their yard work. I spoke to Elliot, our custodian here at North Campus, and he said, boy, that would be really nice. Instead of me carrying that across that whole field next summer, it sure would have been nice to have a gator. So I kind of asked around a little bit, and Brett said that he would utilize it they have a dump box so you can move dirt and fill holes and fix the plow damage. So I didn't want to buy something and let it set. I wanted to make sure it was going to be used and used often.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I don't think that you would just purchase something to purchase something. I've known you for a couple of years now. I don't think you do that. I just want to make sure that we're doing this in a way that we have funds if we need something else, like Dr. Helgren said, that might come up. So
other than the dump truck, we're very in good shape with our infrastructure for my department. With the money that we've saved this year in cost for utilities and I've had a few jobs open pretty much this whole year. I don't think we'll have another opportunity like this ever again. I hope not. I see an opportunity to get like I said, I'll have one truck and then everything else will be fairly new. So,
okay.
Yeah, thanks for your consideration.
So does the gator fall below the limit that we need for board approval, but the truck is above it? Is that the way this works?
Correct.
I will move that we authorize the purchase of a Ford truck at 26.6 plus 10% contingency.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. Ms. Bureau, if we could do a roll call.
Yeah, okay. Jones,
Yes.
Roble,
Yes.
Dalton,
Yes.
Bureau, yes. Helgren,
Yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, we'll move to written petition communications and 7.1, Deputy Bellinger, if you're with us.
President Perry, I do not see Deputy Bellinger in the attendees list.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
see him either.
No, not there.
All right, Dr. Hornak, was there anything in there that needed to be commented on?
I would do, yes, I would love to highlight the fact that Deputy Bellinger has been visible. He's attended some of the meal distributions. He's also hosted a security team training. I think we're working on that name, by the way, but for the junior high team. And he's been visible at some of our athletic events. He also had to respond to a number of home visits to support kids throughout the district throughout the month of October. So as we heard in public comment, this is hard. It's not easy. It's stressful on students. It's certainly stressful on families. And he's been an active member of our support team.
All right, thank you. We'll move to the HR report and board members at the committee of the whole. We heard about the employee assistance program. And Dr. Quinlan or Pete, I don't know if you want to add anything at this point.
We didn't, just if anyone had any questions regarding the written HR report, we could, I can go over anything we wanted to highlight again, that we're looking forward to Michael Dunkel starting next week as our new director of finance. So we're really looking forward to having him on board. And yeah, if there's any questions regarding the EAP before we look for a vote.
I saw that we had 2 mid-year teacher resignations in the last batch. Where are we, I know it's still early on one of them, but where are we at in the process of getting new instructors?
The high school opening was an opening at the beginning of the year, and the candidate didn't work out. So we are still searching for the next candidate. We have an outstanding long-term sub in there in the interim while we search for a qualified candidate. And the Diamonddale teaching position is open, and I believe Melissa Stewart, they were doing interviews last week to hopefully select a candidate.
Thank you.
And
I just have one question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
go ahead,
Dr.
Jennifer.
I talked to Dr. Quinlan earlier, and we're going to talk tomorrow about one of the resignations in the file. It's the 4th one down. I'm not going to use administrators' names or educators' names, but I have a concern in regards to the email and the timing of the email that I would like to maybe have Dr. Hornak and Peter and Dr. Quinlan look into as well. And I think the EAP fits well into this conversation. And I ask that all the board members look at that resignation letter closely so we can maybe not have this happen again. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I can we will look into that. And I think there might have been more to that, but that was just the communication from that portion. But yes, we will get on that.
Yep, absolutely agree. There's probably more to it. And I understand that, but from what I see right here, it kind of concerns me just looking at it first glance. So, well,
absolutely. Absolutely.
That was the 4th one in the packet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And that was eliciting my question that I was going to ask is, do we do exit interviews? And that's something that probably everybody knows. And you do. Okay. Because that, when I read that one, I was like, ooh, there's more there than meets the eye. So
we do. This is an area we're trying to improve on as well. But we offer a electronic exit survey for all staff, and I try to meet with as many exiting employees as I possibly can.
Thank you.
All right, I would entertain a motion on the employee assistant program.
I move to allow the superintendent to enter into an agreement with American Fidelity Insurance CureLink to provide an employee assistance program to the staff of the Holt Public Schools as a pilot program beginning January 1st, 2021 for the calendar year. The cost to the district will be 70 cents per month per employee or regular contracted employee.
I second.
I have a first and a second. Ms. Bureau, if we could have a roll call.
Okay. Dr. Leonard.
Yes.
Mrs. Dalton.
Yes.
Mr. Halgren.
Yes.
Mrs. Bureau, yes. Ms. Roble.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
And Mr. Perry.
Yes. All right, motion passes. Anything else, Dr. Quinlan?
Nope, thank you very much.
All right, good night. We'll move to financial matters. Ms. Cosgrove.
Yep, except for your monthly financial packet, I don't have any report. There are no anomalies, nothing that is sticking out. We are just chugging along.
As far as the federal dollars, the ESSERs that have to be expended by the end of the year, are we on track to have that happen?
Yes, we still have pretty much what I showed the finance committee when we met to go over with the audit with our auditors. So that is what we have. We have continued to increase our PPE. I know athletics, we've had to do that. And we are contemplating more computers that we could put on there to get us closer to a one-on-one. But I think there is some concern that to get them and to pay for them. But I believe that we'll be able to stretch and cover.
Okay. And speaking of the computers, do we have an update on that order that Chromebooks?
Yeah, I think Dr. Hornick said he saw the truck pull in Friday.
It's true. They are being asset tagged not as we speak tonight, because what are we at, 9:20, but they started being asset tagged today and they're being prepped for distribution.
All right, awesome. Board members, any questions for Ms. Cosgrove?
When do we do the next budget update? Would that be January?
Yeah, I think it would probably be February. I'm hoping that we can do that. We usually wait for the ISD to give us their first real budget update, and they have counted the special ed kids and they know which program they are placed in. So it would be February. The only thing I could anticipate is that right now we don't have a payroll clerk and we don't have a finance director. We're waiting for them, and we don't have an accounting supervisor. So I have a lot of duct tape and we're trying to hold it together, but those larger projects, we are going to wait till we settle them. So, but I am shooting for February board meeting.
All right, we'll move on to the calendar. Dr. Hornick, anything there that you want to point out to us?
Nothing out of the ordinary. Just a reminder that we will be hosting that special board meeting on November 23rd. That's Monday, November 23rd at 5:30. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to provide you a board packet on the 18th, no later than the 20th, but I'm very confident in our partners. We then enter Thanksgiving break Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of Thanksgiving week. So there's no school Wednesday through Friday of that same week that we'll be having our special board meeting. School resumes on the 30th. We're back together on the 14th. In between there, our bond proposal potentially goes to Treasury with your approval. And then we have a bond Treasury meeting on the 11th. To that end, then we're looking at the winter holiday break, and that begins December 21st with our last day of school being December 18th. So that's it from that.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to old business. Yearbook underclassmen pictures.
I'll give a brief update there, President Perry, as well. So I've been working with our high school admin team, and we're trying to conceive a way of getting our underclassmen access to pictures. But the key word is access. If we schedule them, we're worried that since many don't drive, it might be difficult to get them here. We have not closed the book literally on underclassmen pictures being included in the yearbook, but rather at this point have pushed them to the spring, at least as I say, at this point. The yearbook staff is going to be holding those pictures and those pages to the very last possible time to ensure that we can get as many people as possible photographed. But the worry right now would be how do we transport the kids for those that aren't able to drive themselves.
Do we know when that deadline is?
We should.
And then if we miss that, if we can't get the, oh, there's got to be a way to do this. If we can't get the pictures taken of the underclassmen, is there a way to put the pictures from last year in the book with a asterisk that says pictures from previous years due to COVID or something like that? I mean, again, we're leaving out three class.
I understand. That was a great suggestion on last year's pick, and I will drill down on the deadline as well.
I like that idea too. If we, try to get this year's pick, but if we don't have it, get last year's, and then you should have 8th grade from last year for the freshmen. So
I mean, we'd have to figure out kindergarten and TK and stuff like that, but maybe they could send in a picture if they choose to.
Is there any restrictions on somebody sending their own photo in if they have one, or
not to my knowledge?
Okay.
I think other than not wearing something that they shouldn't be wearing, probably, or
Right,
there'd have to be a decency filter.
Yeah, we'd have to put stipulations around it.
I did see that Life Touch has something now where they have the backgrounds available for you to take the picture. And I don't know if those would be made available for the yearbook, but that could also be an option.
Clever. Thank you.
Yep. And I think it's basically the same cost too. Thank you.
I've got some good notes here. We'll report back, but we're going to start working on those thoughts. Thanks for the great group think on that.
Yeah, so we don't have a problem, right?
Less of a problem.
We're in this together.
Smaller problem.
All right, any new business? We don't have a need to go into closed session, so we don't need to go into open session, which moves us to item 14.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
A first and a second. Ms. Bureau, if we could do a roll call. While she's unmuting herself, I just want to mention to the public, if by chance you raised your hand and we missed you, you have the option of emailing the entire board, or you could email Ms. Lopez or Dr. Hornak and they could get us your comments. So.
Okay. I was partway through the roll call. So I call on myself, yes. And Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Robo?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
It's a difficult day. Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Dr. Leonard?
Yes.
And Dr. Halgren?
Yes.
Excellent. We're adjourned. Oh, that's you.
All right. Thank you, board members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paige.
Dr. Hornak. Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Good job,
Be well.
Paige.
Be well.